Chapter 4. The Hands of the City. Michelle had expected pain, but when the clasp of the watch snapped shut around her wrist, there was only silence. Not relief, not horror, just a vast and terrible stillness, like the moment between heartbeats. Her pulse stuttered, then fell into perfect rhythm with the ticking that filled her ears. For the first time in weeks, the dissonance ceased. The watch wound her like a clock spring, and she felt her body align, muscles loosening, vision sharpening, breath smooth as pendulum arcs. She looked up at Henrik. He nodded slowly, as though a lesson had been learned. "Better," he said. Michelle opened her mouth to argue, to scream, to beg, but her voice had flattened into something measured, syllables clipped like seconds. Yes, better. The next morning, Copenhagen felt different. Michelle walked the streets at dawn, fog rolling low over the canals, and noticed the city's pulse. Cars accelerated and stopped in sync. Birds rose from rooftops in coordinated spirals. Even the sea against the harbor slapped the stone in a rhythm she could not unhear. People, too, had begun to move differently. A man selling newspapers folded them at exact intervals, each crease as precise as the last. A group of schoolchildren crossed the street together, each step measured as though choreographed. Michelle felt herself falling into step with them. It should have terrified her. Instead, she felt ease. No wasted energy, no hesitation, everything in its place. The world was finally winding properly. At the museum, colleagues stared at her as though she were a stranger. One archivist whispered to another that Michelle's eyes looked wrong. She did not bother correcting them. She no longer fumbled with keys or tripped on uneven stairs. Every movement flowed from the last, as if she had always known the sequence. But she was not without doubts. That night, she stared at herself in the mirror above her rented flat's bathroom sink. The watch gleamed darkly on her wrist, drinking the weak light. She forced her other hand toward the clasp, meaning to tear it free. The reflection did not move. Her mirrored self smiled instead, teeth bared like the polished edges of gears. Then, slowly, the reflection lifted its finger and pressed it to its lips in silence. Michelle staggered back, striking the doorframe. When she looked again, her reflection mimicked her perfectly, wide-eyed and trembling. She did not try to remove the watch again. Henrik visited her that week unannounced. He entered her flat without knocking, moving like he had always belonged there. She should have protested, but the thought of protest seemed frivolous, out of rhythm. "You feel it now, don't you?" he asked. His voice was low, reverent. Michelle hesitated. "I feel balanced." Henrik smiled faintly. "The watch doesn't give balance. It is balanced. We are only vessels." He lifted his wrist. Their watches, his and hers, glowed faintly in sync. Michelle felt the vibration through her bones, as though her marrow hummed. "What does it want?" she asked, her voice flat. Henrik's eyes flicked toward the window, where the city lay swaddled in fog. To be wounded, to be kept, to spread. That night, Michelle dreamed of gears. They towered above her like iron buildings, massive wheels grinding slowly in the dark. She walked between them, their teeth interlocking overhead, throwing sparks that fell like dying stars. Somewhere ahead, a figure beckoned. It was Rasmussen, his neck bent at the angle of his rope, his eyes black. He raised a hand and pointed at her wrist. "You are late," he mouthed. Michelle woke with a start, sweat cold on her skin. The watch ticked steadily, mercilessly. The city worsened in the following days. Buses ran early, then late, then not at all. Digital clocks blinked impossible times. 14 hours, 89 minutes. 3 hours, 73 minutes. A young woman at the museum fainted, and when she awoke, she swore she had lost 3 years of memory. Police reports spoke of missing persons who reappeared in strange parts of the city, dazed and blank-eyed. Some carried objects they did not recognize, a set of keys to non-existent doors, a pocket watch that showed only blank darkness. Michelle and Henrik walked the streets together like observers, invisible to the chaos. Or perhaps they were not observers at all, but catalysts. You see, Henrik murmured as they crossed Kongens Nytorv, where traffic lights blinked in contradictory patterns. It's only the beginning. Michelle wanted to deny him, to insist they could stop it, but the ticking inside her drowned her thoughts. On a gray Thursday, Michelle received a letter slipped under her flat door. No return address, no stamp. Only her name scrawled across the envelope in a shaking hand. Inside was a single sheet of paper. If you want answers, come to the tower. Midnight. Bring no one. The paper smelled faintly of mildew and salt. Michelle knew which tower. Rundetarn, the old round tower in the heart of the city. A place built for observation, for measuring the heavens, for keeping time. She went. Of course she went. The streets were empty when she arrived, the fog thicker than milk. Rundetarn loomed like a column of bone, windows dark. The great spiral ramp inside swallowed her footsteps. At the top, she found a man waiting. Not Henrik. The stranger was gaunt, dressed in a heavy coat too large for him, eyes rimmed in red as if he had not slept in days. He clutched a bundle of papers to his chest. "You're one of them," he said when he saw the watch on her wrist. His voice cracked with fear. "You've been marked." Michelle stepped closer. "Who are you?" "Jens Rasmussen," he said. "My grandfather was the watchmaker. He warned me this day would come." Michelle's breath caught. "You know about it." He nodded, thrusting the papers toward her. He kept notes. He tried to stop it, but he failed. He said it was older than clocks, older than ships, older than Denmark itself. A parasite, feeding, moving from hand to hand. Michelle took the papers. The ink was smeared, but she could make out fragments. The watch cannot be broken. The host can. Sever the host, and the chain may stall. She looked up sharply. "You're saying I have to kill him?" Jens's eyes darted toward the darkness of the stairwell. "Where he kills you. That's how it moves. That's how it survives." A sound echoed below, footsteps measured and steady. "Henrik." Michelle's heart seized, the ticking inside her faltering. The watch pulsed hot against her skin, as if aware of the betrayal. Jens gripped her arm. "Choose before it's too late." The footsteps drew closer, each one precise as the swing of a pendulum. Michelle stood frozen at the top of the tower, Jens trembling beside her, Henrik rising from the shadows below. 2 watches ticked. Hers. Hi. The city outside was silent, waiting. Chapter 5. Sever the chain. Henrik's footsteps echoed up the spiral ramp like the swing of a pendulum, each impact measured, inevitable. Michelle felt the sound reverberate through the bones of the Rundetarn itself, as though the tower were a hollow clock casing in Henrik its driving weight. Jens squeezed her arm, his nails biting through her coat. His face shone with sweat despite the cold. "You can't let him touch you," he whispered. "It'll bind you tighter. The only way to stop it." "I know," Michelle said flatly. Her own voice startled her. It was too calm, too precise. She was already aligning with Henrik's rhythm. Jens leaned closer, berättigad. "My grandfather said the watch can't be destroyed, but the chain can. Sever the host, and it stalls. Maybe forever." The ticking inside Michelle's chest surged, as though the watch had heard and bristled. Henrik's figure emerged from the shadows of the stairwell. His eyes gleamed in the lamplight, pupils narrow slits of polished steel. The black dial on his wrist pulsed faintly, in perfect counterpoint with hers. "Michelle," he said softly, his voice resonant, layered. "You shouldn't have come here without me." The city below was silent. From the tower's windows, Michelle saw Copenhagen swallowed in fog, streets deserted, lights flickering irregularly. A great stillness had fallen, like the moment before a clock strikes. Henrik advanced slowly. His movements were graceful, economical, as though waste itself had been erased from him. "You've spoken to him," Henrik said, nodding toward Jens. "Rasmussen's bloodline, always meddling, always fearing. They don't understand. They cling to chaos, to imperfection. He says, "I have to kill you," Michelle said. Her words fell into the air like stones into water, no tremor of fear. Henrik smiled faintly. Of course he does. It's what the frightened always say. Kill the vessel. Smash the casing. Pray the mechanism halts. But time doesn't halt, Michelle. It only finds another hand to turn. His gaze flicked to Jens, whose lips trembled. Perhaps his. Michelle's heart ticked harder. She imagined the watch leaping wrist to wrist, a parasite passing itself down generations. She saw Rasmussen's body twisting at impossible angles, saw herself dangling the same way. The watch whispered in her veins, a line. "Obey." Jens shoved a knife into her palm. It was old, its handle wrapped in cracked leather, the kind a craftsman might keep at his bench. "Do it," Jens hissed. "Before he touches you, before you're gone completely." The weight of the knife felt alien in her hand. She turned it over, staring at the dull sheen of the blade. It would take only a thrust, a cut, one motion to sever the chain. Henrik raised his hands slowly, palms open. "Look at you, Michelle. They've made you believe you have a choice. But you've already joined us. You wear it. You felt the peace." Her chest ached with each tick. She had felt it. The stillness. The alignment. The ease of moving without error. For the first time in years, she hadn't been anxious, hadn't been fumbling. The parasite gave perfection. But at what cost? She lifted the knife. Henrik did not flinch. He spread his arms wider, as if welcoming the blow. "If you cut me down, it will only move to you. Or him. Or someone else. Do you want that guilt?" Michelle's hand trembled. The knife quivered in the air. Jens shouted, "Don't listen. He's trying to trick you. Strike now." Henrik's gaze softened. "Michelle, listen to the rhythm. Hear how the city has gone silent, waiting for us. We can guide it. Together. No more wasted years. No more chaos. Only order. Isn't that what you've always wanted?" The knife lowered an inch. She thought of her life before Copenhagen. The frantic deadlines in Berlin, the anxiety gnawing her stomach, the sleepless nights cataloging exhibits no one would ever truly care about. The endless fear of failure. She had wanted an order. She had begged for it. But she had not asked for this. Her grip tightened on the knife. She lunged. Henrik moved faster than human. His hand caught her wrist mid-arc, the blade inches from his throat. His grip was iron, unyielding. The watches on their wrists pulsed together, lights spilling like liquid shadow. Michelle cried out, straining against him, but her muscles obeyed the watch, not her will. Her arms slowed, frozen in place. Henrik leaned close, his lips at her ear. "See? You can't sever what is already joined. You and our gears in the same mechanism now." Jens rushed forward with a desperate cry. Henrik turned his free hand and struck him. The blow was not violent, not even forceful, but Jens flew backward as if flung by machinery, his body striking the stone wall with a crack. He crumpled, motionless. Michelle screamed, or tried to. What emerged was a flat, mechanical sound, like a clock chime. Henrik wrenched the knife from her hand and tossed it aside. It clattered uselessly across the floor. "You see now," he murmured. "Violence is wasted motion. The watch does not allow waste." They stood together at the tower's edge, looking out over the city. Below, the fog parted in swirling eddies, and Michelle saw what lay beneath. Copenhagen was moving. Not the people, not exactly. The streets themselves twisted, intersections folding into new shapes, buildings sliding against each other like plates of metal. Street lamps flickered in unison, signaling some vast hidden code. The city was becoming a mechanism. Michelle pressed her hands to the glass. "My God," she whispered. "It's using all of us. The city, it's..." Henrik placed a hand gently on her shoulder. His touch was ice cold but steady. "The city is aligning. Finally, we are merely the hands guiding it." Behind them, Jens coughed. He dragged himself upright, blood trickling from his temple. "You're both fools," he rasped. "It won't stop with Copenhagen. It never does. Every cycle it spreads farther. Ships, towns, whole countries swallowed by lost time. You're feeding it. Henrik's eyes narrowed. He is noised Michelle. Ignore him. But Michelle could not ignore. Jens's voice cut through the ticking like static. He might be right. The watch had no reason to end with a single city. If left unchecked, it could consume the world, aligning every human life into one endless rhythm. Perfect, eternal, and utterly inhuman. Her stomach turned. She tore herself free of Henrik's grip and stumbled toward Jens, pulling him upright. His eyes widened at her touch, as if he had not expected her to choose him. Henrik's expression darkened. You disappoint me, Michelle. The fog outside thickened, pressing against the windows like a tide. The ticking grew louder, filling the tower, vibrating in the stone. Jens whispered hoarsely, "The sea. My grandfather always said, return it to the sea. That's where it belongs." Michelle clutched her wrist, feeling the watch pulse like a heart. For the first time, she sensed something beneath the ticking, a hunger that was not hers. The sea. Yes, the sea had taken ships before. It could take this too. Henrik advanced, each step measured, the floor trembling faintly beneath him. Michelle grabbed Jens's arm, dragging him toward the stairwell. The spiral ramp loomed below, plunging into shadow. Henrik's voice echoed after them, calm and cold. You cannot outrun the clock. Time always finds you. Michelle didn't look back. She ran. Chapter 6, Toward the Sea. The spiral ramp of the Run to Tarn seemed endless. Michelle's boots slipped on the worn stone as she half-dragged Jens downward. His breath rattled, wet with blood, but he kept pace. Behind them, Henrik's footsteps did not quicken, did not slow. They struck the stone like clock hammers, steady, inevitable. Michelle felt the ticking inside her ribs fight her own stride, trying to pull her back into rhythm with him. Every muscle in her body wanted to march, not run. Each second of resistance felt like tearing sinew from bone. Keep going, Jens gasped. Don't let it set the pace. The ramp spat them into the street. Fog clung low, so thick the lamps along Cobb Magergade glowed like moons drowned in milk. The city was wrong again, too quiet, too still. Not a soul walked the streets, not a car passed. The silence was mechanical, expectant, as though the city waited for an unseen conductor. Jens pointed south, toward the faint brine in the air. The harbor, he said. The sea's the only thing that can swallow it. Michelle nodded and pulled him along. As they hurried through the empty streets, she noticed changes in the city's bones. Cobblestones shifted beneath her feet, forming faint patterns like the teeth of gears. Street lamps flickered in sequence, chasing them block by block. The city wasn't only waiting, it was guiding them. Or her. The watch pulsed warmly on her wrist, urging her to turn left when Jens said right, to hesitate when he told her to hurry. It oppressed through her blood like a second set of instincts. Don't listen to it, Jens rasped, stumbling beside her. It knows you better than you know yourself. That's how it wins. Michelle bit her lip until she tasted copper, forcing her legs to move. She wanted to believe him. But wasn't he just another cog? Another vessel? Her mind reeled with doubt. They reached Straget, the pedestrian street that should have been crowded even at night. It was empty. Shop windows were black mirrors. Mannequins twisted in unnatural poses as if caught mid-motion. Then Michelle heard it, ticking, not from her wrist, nor from Henrik behind them, from everywhere. Each shop window rattled faintly with the sound. The air itself vibrated, as if the city's lungs had become a vast clockwork mechanism. The sound grew louder until Michelle dropped to her knees, clutching her ears. Jens crouched beside her, voice strained. It's aligning. The whole city. That's why we have to end it now. Through the fog, she saw Henrik's silhouette emerging from Run to Tarn, impossibly distant yet arriving as though space folded around him. He did not run. He did not need to. The harbor salt stung her nose as they reached Nyhavn. The water was black glass. The masts of moored ships rising like skeletal hands. The fog thickened, swallowing the far shore. Michelle's pulse hammered against the watch, tick for beat, until she could no longer tell which belonged to her. Jens staggered to the edge of the pier, clutching his ribs. "Throw it in. Now!" Michelle lifted her wrist. The watch gleamed, its face darker than the sea itself, its symbols writhing faintly. She pulled at the clasp. It didn't budge. The strap had fused to her skin, as though veins themselves had grown into leather. Her fingers tore at it until blood welled, but the watch clung tighter. "It won't come off," she cried. Jens's eyes widened. "Then you'll have to go with it." The words struck her like a blow. She pictured herself sinking into the black water, lungs burning, the parasite dragging her deeper, deeper, until the sea swallowed both. The watch pulsed hard against her wrist, furious. "No, Michelle whispered. Not like this." Behind them, Henrik's voice carried through the fog. "Calm. Certain. You can't drown time, Michelle. The sea only delays. It always returns." They turned. He stood at the pier's edge, fog curling around him like smoke. His watch glowed, faintly, beating in counterpoint with hers. Together their pulses filled the air, louder than the waves, louder than her own thoughts. "Give yourself to it," Henrik said softly. "Together we can win the city." Guide it. The world doesn't have to suffer chaos anymore. Think of the peace, Michelle. Think of the order. Her knees buckled. For a moment she wanted it, desperately. To stop fumbling, to stop fearing, to live without mistakes. To let the mechanism take over. But then she saw Jens, broken and bleeding, clutching the knife Henrik had thrown aside. His eyes were full of fire, of refusal. Human refusal. And she remembered Rasmussen's body, twisted in its final posture. The price of peace. Michelle rose. "No," she said. The fog around Henrik thickened, swirling into shapes, gears, pendulums, clock faces half-formed and dissolving. The air reeked of rust and brine. He extended a hand, and the shadows behind him moved as if answering. "You can't fight it," he murmured. "It's already in your blood." Michelle clutched Jens's arm and pulled him toward the water. "Then I'll bleed out." She leapt. The harbor swallowed them whole. Cold engulfed her, knives of salt stabbing her lungs. The watch blazed against her wrist, hotter than fire, thrumming with fury. Its symbols flared beneath the water, painting her skin in black light. Michelle kicked downward, dragging Jens with her. The sea seemed endless, pulling them deeper, the city's glow vanishing above. She heard the watch screaming, not in words, but in grinding gears in the thunder of collapsing time. She forced her hand again.